Alright, so everybody, name is Martin Hernandez. You can call me MDK. I'm one of the top players, for those who don't know, I'm one of the top players currently in Waiver 64. This is gonna be my attempt to make a troubleshoot video for Sunny Beach. This is something I've been wanting to do for a while, but you know, a lot of things get in the way. Plus, I don't feel like it's necessary to do a tutorial. ShivyPod already did a tutorial years ago. But as you can see here, Sunny Beach is the most competitive stage in this game. It's by far the most competitive board in the game. We got a total of 115 entrants. Shit, that's a lot for wave race. So, I think that the best way to go about this is, okay, so I selected a couple of runs here. Selected like 5 runs, and the dynamic that I'm looking for is that we're gonna watch these runs together, and as they develop, I'm gonna start noticing where things tend to go wrong, so we can then explain why these things are happening. Just a clarification, we're not bashing on these players or anything like that. I may offer a solution here or there, but that's not the point of the video. The point of the video is just I want you guys to leave this video like being able to understand when these things happen to you, why they're happening, and perhaps what it was that you did that made these things happen in the first place. Okay, so I'm just gonna leave some music on because I'm not going to use the audio from the runs. So first one we're gonna watch is Sandy Panther. This is a 104. This is still not a 103. Reason why I want to watch this is because I think it's important to tell the difference between a 104 and a 103. There's like very key differences. So we can see here, it's kind of a nice turn. He kind of got around that. That's really quick. Still kind of behind the Dolphin, but he's catching up. He's definitely catching up. Oh, he bounced a bit there. It's not too good, but he can definitely make that up. He's an insanely good player, dude. Alright, he's catching up, Oh, he got a bounce, but he's not dead. Run's not dead, he's still going. Still barely behind the Dolphin, but I'm gonna assume that he catches up. Come on, Andy, there we go, there's the fucking Dolphin, there we go. Okay, so he finally caught up with the Dolphin. It makes a decent turn for lap 3. I was kind of unlucky with the bob cycle, but that's okay. That can happen. You just gotta be ready for that. And yeah, he makes a decent turn at the end. Lands it with a 104.4. So this looks like a pretty solid run. I think there's very obvious, like the biggest mistakes are pretty obvious. You know, like the time he bounced on the buoy or something like that. But this right here is kind of the first thing I'm noticing. And this is really important. If you want to get good at Sunny Beach or whatever course in this game, you need to be able to get clean straights, because otherwise you're not going to build speed. There's no other place in the course for you to build speed but the straights. Like the rest of the course, we're just trying to keep our momentum. We're not really trying to build momentum. I mean, we kind of are, but you know what I'm saying. So the fact that you go down to 120 right there, it's actually, it's not horrible because the run is just beginning, but it's bad. Like, that's a straight way where you never want to go down, because this is what happens when you go down. You're gonna reach this wave. So a lot of players will tell you the same thing. You can see most players doing the same thing. They just go to the left of this wave. That's easier said than done, though. And the reason why it feels hard to do is because you're not at the pace that you need to be in order to skip this wave. So if you're getting this wave and you don't know how to clear it, the best solution I got for you is to work on that straight. The best thing you can do is to work on the straight and the first turn. As long as those two are as clean as you can possibly get them to be, you should almost always beat this wave with no trouble. Now, keep in mind when I'm saying beating this wave, it's not like this wave is going away. This wave is not going anywhere. This wave is always gonna be here. But this gap right here is actually bigger. So you can kind of like squeeze through way more easily. So because he didn't beat the wave, he kinda got a bounce. Now, why is that bounce a bad thing? That's a very, very bad thing if you're going for 103. and a lot of people don't realize why. So because you're bouncing here, that means that look, let me show you here. So if you see this white line right like in front of the dolphin, this white line is where you should have bounced if you didn't catch the wave. But because you caught the wave, that means you're gonna bounce earlier, which means that instead of bouncing past the turn, you're gonna bounce as you're hitting the turn, which is still doable. Don't get me wrong, you can still get a really sick turn with that, but it's way harder. Like it requires a lot of knowledge, a lot of feel. It's just harder to do, you know. So this is the reason why this turn feels awkward, because your down bop is coming ahead of time, and that's something that a lot of people don't really realize when it comes to this game. Down bops are insanely important to get right, and I'm not meaning just the inputs. I'm meaning like the positioning of your down bops has to be right. That's why sometimes you'll see fish like restarting Sunny Beach all over and over again, because he's not getting the bobs that he needs for the strategy that he's using. But that doesn't mean that he cannot PB with the bobs that he's getting. He can still PB. He's just, you know, committed to his strategy. But that's kind of what he makes him so good, you know, his ability to commit. So out of those two errors, you couldn't beat the first wave until the second lap, which is okay. This is like, by the way, this is like a very nice way to know you missed the pace of a 103. You can still get a 103, but it's really difficult if you don't beat that wave. Right here you get a buoy bounce. Yeah, that's unlucky. That can happen. It can happen almost every time. There's literally no way around it because that happens really fast. Now, however, what I think you did here, maybe the reason why this happened, so if you take a look here, you adjust it and then you adjust it again, you know, so that seems a bit shaky. And the reason why that's important is because if you take a look at this straight right here, as you're making this down bop, you're already starting to turn. But because you started the lap a bit too much to the right, that makes it so you cannot go right. You have to clear the yellow buoy in order to go right, and you're not gonna go right because you want to start turning, so that lands you with the buoy bounce because you're running out of space. So instead, what you should be trying to do here, I don't mean Andy, I mean everybody, what everyone should be trying to do here is like clear this path. Instead of right here where he's crossing the finish line, you want to cross it at like the A of the finish line. That's something like that, because that way you can keep like a straight line over to, you know, like behind this buoy, behind this yellow buoy. That way you stay clear of the red buoy. Now the second turn was good. Okay, so this is something really common that happens to me a lot. It's very annoying. So you hit this wave, you're pushing forward on the wave, but you're B tapping a lot, man. And I don't mean like as you're coming down, I mean before you hit the wave. The reason why I know that is because you got 2 down bops in a row. That doesn't happen. So right here, you're pushing B, pushing B, pushing B, pushing B, pushing B. If you look at Mariner, he's constantly trying to push the jet ski down into the water. And that's kind of what hurt this wave, because you might think that you're gonna be entering this wave on an out pop, and that's kind of true. But because of the positioning that you're carrying and the fact that you're pressing forward on the stick, you're not really getting this wave. You're getting half the wave. So that means you're gonna clear it faster, which means you're gonna go down faster, you know. And because you're constantly B tapping, you're gonna go down and then you're gonna immediately bounce on the water because you're putting way too much weight on Mariners. This is something, just a cool tip, something that Love Fresh caught recently, not too long ago. You can actually dive under this wood. You can go under this red buoy. It doesn't make a damn difference. It's the same thing, but it just looks way cooler. Right here, yeah, it was a very nice turn, very nice bob, very nice angle. Yeah, pretty solid all around. Then again, see you down. Like, see, it's not such a big problem. Like, messing up a straight, it's not a deal breaker if you mess it up like after the yellow buoy. if you get to the yellow buoy without dropping KMH, you're good. The straight is good enough. But if you drop before, brother, you gotta buckle up because you need to catch up. You really need to catch up. You're losing a lot of time because you're doing that. Because you're missing a single B tab or because you're missing a down bob. Every time you go down, the problem is not going down, dude. The problem is building that speed again. That's the real issue. So, like I said, this is the only time in the course where you're actually gonna be able to build the amount of speed that you want to build, you know. So yeah. C19. This is interesting. This is really hard to explain, so I'm not even sure how I'm going to explain this. But we face this wave. All right. I think that's a bit late, to be honest. Perhaps I gotta find the right frame. This is very difficult to spot. Not a lot of people spot this, but this is very important. These two lines. I present to you Mr. and Mrs. White Line. These two white lines that you see right next to the wave. This is not a bob. This is the wave. The wave is just coming up. The thing is, a lot of players will try to steer to the right to like he did here, like just like Andy did here. But that's kind of the thing. That's not a bob. That's the wave. So instead of trying to go closer to the wave, you really gotta aim for it. You really gotta be on the lookout for these lines, but you want to go in the middle of them. This little gap that you can see here in the middle of these two lines, that's your route. That's the route that you need to stick to. Otherwise, you're gonna bounce. You know, you can definitely make that up. You don't have to bounce there, but it's not worth it. Let's just put it that way, okay? It's easier if you don't get close to that second white line, close to the water, close to the wave. So, another thing we need to keep a lookout. This is 23.1, 20.6, sorry, and 20.6. So, the only way, just think about this for a second. The only way you can get a 103 with this splits is if you get a, pretty sure 22.7, maybe even 22.6. I think that's safer. And 22.6 is not easy, man. So if you're going for 103 and you start off with a 23, I would highly suggest to restart. You can still do it. Just if a little bit of information, if you're curious, you can still get a 103 even if you get a 23.2. But that's insanely difficult. Like, if you get a 23 on the first lap, the run's gonna be hard. You might as well just restart. If you're really good at Sunny Beach, you can get a 103 with a 23 start. If you're insanely good, you can still get it with a 0.1 and 0.2 start. But that's only the top of the top, dude. Like, not a lot of people can do that. Like, even Shivi and I struggle to do that shit. It's not easy at all. So it's good to keep a lookout for this splits, because this splits will come in play later. But yeah, I think it's a really solid run. I think that Andy, with a little bit more of work, he can easily take this down. Very easily take this down. But as you can see, like, the course is really straightforward. You're mostly going straight. Most of the course, you're just going straight. But because you're going straight for most of the course, you can't mess that up. That's the main takeaway from this video. You need to be able to have clean straights if you want a better Sunny Beach. Alright. So that would be Andy Panthers. Now, we're gonna take a look at Hoshi's, Koiro Hoshi's 104 on Sunny Beach. The reason why I chose this run is because it's a 104.02, like 0.2, 0.002, sorry. This is a very frustrating time to get. I got way too many of these back when I was first trying to get 103. So I think it's a very relatable point. A lot of people, when you feel like you're trying to barely get your first benchmark, it feels like you need to play it perfect in order for it to work out, which we all know is very far from the truth, but that's how it feels, you know. So I think this is a very nice situation to look at. Kind of the same thing as before. that happened to Andy. He kind of bounced a bit too much because he was tapping me too much. It's 43 going into lap 3, which is really good. That's a 1-on-3 pace. But as we can see, he has a 22.8. So even if he gets a 20.5, that's still not enough. Yeah. Okay. See, still not enough. It's so bullshit, man. Like this course can troll you in so many ways. It's insane. But let's try to recapping what happened there. Now the first lap I think is pretty clean. To be honest, I didn't even spot that many mistakes. Maybe that one, that's something that I think I can explain. So the thing is, here's like a little bit of information on how movement works in this game. Most of our times we're gonna be looking out for down bobs because that's our main way to move throughout the game. You're not moving on an up bob. That's never happened. The only thing you're doing on an up bob is readjusting your positioning, but you're never moving. Like the turn doesn't actually start until you hit the down bob, like the following down bob. So that's exactly what you see right here. Like if we slow this down, we can actually tell that he's leaning way before this down bob, like way before. I'm talking like here, like right here. As he starts to go up in this bob, right here, that's where he starts to lean. So what happens is that because you're leaning too much, I mean, I'm even going so far as to say that you actually held a direction for a moment there, because that's mostly the only way this is gonna happen. Mariner's positioning is getting way too tampered with before you hit this down bob. So as you hit the down bob, you're not hitting it in a smooth direction. You're creating a lot of friction in the water because you're slamming into it. You're not perpendicular to the water, you're horizontal to it. So you're just gonna create a lot of splashing. You know, it's you can think of it like you're buffering the game to give you a bad angle. That's one way to look at it. You're buffering a bad angle. That's why a lot of top players use tap turns. That's why they tap on their stick instead of holding a direction, because that allows them to make very subtle adjustments while not affecting their positioning for the next down bob. And even then, depending on the adjustment they did, they will most likely compensate on the opposite direction, so they're ready for the down bob. Now, turn was really good. Turn was, yeah, it's fairly decent. Like, it can be faster, it can be slower, you could argue whatever. It was a good turn. Now, as we see here, because he got the taste, he was able to beat the way, which is really cool. Alright. Yeah, I can kind of see what happened here. So, as you're going into this, yeah, exactly. Yeah, that's exactly what's happening. So I know just by looking at the jet ski's positioning that he's using a lower angle for this turn. And the reason why I know that is because as he's exiting this sand path that is right here, because he's using a lower angle and the tail of the jet ski is still technically on top of the sand, he's gonna push the jet ski down, but ever so slightly in a way that makes him drift, like slide off the sand. That's why he's dropping to 60 km/h at this turn. Ways you can get around that, perhaps trying to be a bit more subtle, a bit more gentle with your stick movement. That can easily get you through without catching any sand. You can try different angles. You can try for a bit of a wider turn. You know, this turn doesn't have to be magical, dude. It doesn't have to be a perfect turn to get a 1-on-3, to be honest. You just need to course through it. The main takeaway from this turn, the main thing you want to focus on this turn, is getting a clean exit line. It's not really about the turn. Even if I drop to 50 km/h at this turn, I can still keep the pace and I can still get a 104. That's not that bad. But if this line, if your exiting line is getting tampered with because of the angle you chose for this turn, you gotta play safer, bro. You really gotta find a way around this, because this alone can totally hurt the run. Like, it can definitely kill the run if you're not careful. That doesn't mean you have to every time play it safe around this turn. In fact, I would argue that a lot of Sunny Beach runs are lost to players trying to play this turn safe, especially on the third lap. Whenever you reach this turn, I would actually encourage you to try to play it as risky as you can possibly play, because that way, if you're focusing on trying to get something very crazy to work, then try to play it safe doesn't seem that crazy, you know, because you already see how much things you can get away with in a way, you know. But that's just a tiny thought. Then again, we're not really reviewing the player, we're actually just trying to explain some of the things that are happening with this run. Yeah, nothing, not a lot to say there. It's all pretty decent. Okay, so this is weird. This is really weird. I don't even know how this works. I don't understand how this works, to be honest. You see this dip right here that's forming in front of him? This dip, this really weird circle right to the next, like the right buoy, the red buoy. I don't know what happens, but it happens. So if this does happen to you, I guess my advice would be to, let's see, let me just try to think how I would go about this, because it's so weird to explain. Yeah, okay, so the one thing you need to worry about here is speed tapping, because this bump is so weird. It's so odd to get, by the way, but it's so weird that it's almost too risky to try to take it as a normal bob. This is not a normal bob, and you can see it coming from a mile away. It's not a normal bob. So what I would do here, I would like he's doing, I would lean towards the turn, but once I'm hitting this wave, I don't want to beat tap. I don't want to beat tap anywhere close, anywhere near this wave. I don't want to beat tap before it. I don't want to beat tap after it. I don't want to beat tap during it, because I don't know how the jet ski will react. It's so volatile. This situation can be so volatile for your weight, for like the way you're distributing Mariner's weight, that it's actually easier for you to not beat tap. Just completely skip your beat taps at this point and just course through it, because it's just weird. It's kind of one of the weird things that can happen in this course. Alright. Okay, I can kind of see what happens here. If this happens to you, this happened to be a lot. You don't even know how much. This bounce is a bitch, dude. Like, I spent hours trying to figure out why I was bouncing on these waves. I say these because this happened a lot to me, like way too much. The reason why this happens is because you're pressing forward too late. So you're holding back because you're going to a down bob, so you want to reach the lower ceiling, like the lower floor of the water faster. That way, like the rise that Mariner makes during the wave is kind of faster, which gets you to the middle point of the wave, which is where the forward input comes in, because you're pushing forward right after holding back. You're like holding back as you approach the wave, and then as you hit the down bob before the wave, you start pushing forward so you can course through the wave. But that's kind of the thing. If you mess up the timing, and if you push forward once you're in the wave, that's not gonna happen, dude. You're gonna bounce, you're gonna jump this wave, because you already buffered back like shit ton before we reach this wave. And it doesn't even matter if you just do it for a slight second or for a full second before hitting the wave. If you don't cancel that with a properly timed forward push, you're gonna bounce. So right here where he's at, right before the wave, this is where I like to push forward. I would hold back, and as I'm reaching that down bob, that's my cue for pushing forward. So it's down, forward, right before the wave. And that way you make sure you don't get the bounce. And he exits the stage. It's a 104.002. It's pretty nice, pretty solid, but just like I said, getting a 103 with a 0.8, it's not easy. It's definitely not easy. And if you think you're on pace because you had a 0.8, brother, you don't even have to worry. The run is just beginning, so just calm down, just chill, and just play, because it's not as easy as it looks. Like, trust me, it can definitely seem way further than it actually is. But that's regardless of the team. Okay, that's not important. Okay, so that was Hoshi's 104. Now we're gonna take a look at the first 103 of the night, and this will wholesome, man, because this guy has been improving so much once he got this new controller. But okay, we're gonna watch Ryan Warner's 103 924. This is one of the latest. I think it's the latest 103 that was submitted to the boards. I'm not sure. I had to check up on that, but I think it is. So let's see. See what happens here. Again, we're not bashing on the players. We're merely going over what went wrong during the run and what you can do about that. That was pretty clean. Pretty clean so far. Okay. There's a couple things we can know here. These are mistakes, by the way. Let me just make that very clear. These are mistakes. There's just very tiny things that can happen, so you have to be on the lookout for them. This really nice down bob here. This portion here, I feel like you took a bit too much time going down on that wave. Like, you went down so slowly, and the reason why that happens is because you're not tapping down on the stick. So if we actually have an input viewer here, so we can take a look at these inputs, and I can guarantee you that he's not pushing down as he's leaving the wave. Exactly, that's why it happens. So whenever you're exiting one of these waves, you want to like slightly or very quickly tap down on the stick without V-tapping, by the way. This happens after your V-taps, because as you tap down the stick, that actually pushes the tail of the jet ski forward into the water. Like, it pushes you down faster, and because you already V-tapped like once or twice, you're going down insanely fast, and you just get into the water immediately without splashing if you stop your V-taps at the right time. If you splash, you V-tap a bit too much, a bit too early, or a bit too late. Mostly a bit too late, or a bit too much. Like early, that doesn't actually happen. Okay, then again, we see him dropping 127, which is not ideal. He kind of got messed up with his line. It's actually insane, dude. Dude, that was actually insane. Like, I'm not even sure if Ryan understands how insane this lap really was, because it really was insane. Let me explain to you why I'm so mind boggled by this. By the way, if you have a keen eye, you can tell that he got the same wave. He got the same bob that I just said it was like really odd to find. It happened. So he got mixed up, right? It was a very wide turn. It was not the turn he was looking for. You can pretty obviously tell. And then he kind of like tries to straighten up so he can start building speed, which is the right thing to do. But he's now losing his line. He's not following the route that he needs to follow, and he realizes this, so he comes back. But here's the kicker, and here's where this lap is so brilliant, dude. If you would have gotten a straight line, you would have met this wave right here, but you would have clashed into it. So this wave would have taken out a huge chunk of your speed and would have made this 103 insanely difficult to get. Like, at that point, you just straight up gotta clutch the third lap, and that's pretty much it. But just because you lost half a second during the first turn, you're actually able to clear this wave right as it's dying, and it doesn't actually affect your KMH, dude. Like, it's so insane the fact that happened within the same lap. It's just amazing, man. It really goes on to show how prepared you have to be when you're playing Warrior 64 for when these things can happen. You just gotta learn how to adapt and how to go with the flow. Then again, very good third lap. And this turn, let me take a look at this angle, because that turn was really odd. I really know. Okay, yeah, so I think that he just held the stick a bit too much. Like right here, you can see it's turning, turning, turning. But that's kind of the thing. You already tapped that direction twice, and you tap it again. No, you tap it 3 times. 1, 2, 3. Yeah, 3 times. The second time you held the direction. So the third time you're gonna tap it. So this is how it works. The first time you tap it, you tap a direction. Mariner will get or get or whatever the character. The character will get more in line to follow that direction. So if I press left and Mariner barely turns left, that's okay. But if I tap left twice, the second time I tap it, Mariner's gonna move, dude. Like he's gonna move left because I already buffered that direction. He already understood that that's the direction where I want to go because that's where I'm telling him to go. So in this clip, we can see that he taps lower left, then he holds lower left, he skips, and then he taps it again. But because he already tapped it once, that held that slither little time gap where he's held this direction completely took him down to 60 kmh. Now, how you can get around this? That's actually very few ways. Like there's actually a lot of ways to get around this, but my favorite way to get around this personally, I like to hold back on the stick just here. Right here where he's at, I like to rotate my stick from this direction. Like you already input lower left, and as you're hitting this down bump on top of the sand, you wanna like tilt your stick backwards, just like you do before you reach a wave during the straights. It's the same thing because holding back on the stick makes you drift, so it makes you sharp cornerly. Yeah, it makes your corner sharper, so it allows you to drift your way through this turn with a way smoother motion, and it just makes it better. It just makes its turns better. But that's just one way. This is my favorite way of doing it, and that's a 924. Now, what do we see here? We see the 22.7, which is a good start. It's a very good start for 103. We see a 20.7, which is decent, but this is still danger zone. Like you're still not sure if you're gonna get the pace, if you're gonna get the 103, because you're barely on pace. And then you get a 20.4. Like this 0.4 just kind of clutched it, to be honest. But you could argue that this all came because of the second lap. Like, dude, just the way you aligned yourself with the second lap just really carried this run forward. For real, it's just an amazing run, dude. And big shout outs to Ryan, because I know how difficult this time was for him, and it's just amazing to see this guy improving, dude. It's so good. All right. Yes, just as I said, 104, 091. This is the time you'll be getting. Like, not a lot of people can skip the point 0. That just doesn't happen. So yeah, if you're getting a lot of point 0s, don't get frustrated. That's just natural. That's just gonna happen. So that's Ryan. All right. So I think that the main takeaway that you can get from this run is that if you'll notice, and we can actually recap this real quick, like this, so the run ends faster. We're just gonna look at the kmh. Okay, so he reached 126 on the first straight, and he dropped to 124. This section, not that important. It is kind of important, but kmh is not that important, that section. 22, 24, 26, 27, 24, 24, 22. I think he dropped to 120, 122. But he did it right at the end of the straight. He kept 127 for most of the straight. So, job well done. 22, 24, 26, 27, 29, 27, 26. That's insane. That straight was, I don't want to say god tier, but it was really fucking good. It was really good. This is exactly how you want your straights to look like. Okay, sure, you can get it a bit better at the end, but nevertheless, like, look at that. Like, it's just full profit. Like, he's just gaining so much time by not dropping a single KMH during the straight. It was just clean as fuck, dude. Really good. So that's the main difference so far. First difference between 104s and 103s, clean straights. It's kind of what does it, dude. I mean, this course depends on it. Most of the course is just like a straight, So Yeah, just keep that in mind. I'm just gonna replay this quick. Okay, so that was Ryan Warner. So 103.9, really nice time, really nice time. Now I want to take a look at Pancakes, 103.8. Very good player. Top 5, he's still top 5, yeah, it's still top 5. Top 5 player. One of the best wave racers around, for sure. But, yeah. Don't get confused by this. Like, point 8, this guy's way better than this. Even if he still doesn't believe it. That he can beat this Sunny Beach, I know he can. Okay. So far, so good. Alright. Yeah, I can tell your KMH dropped a bit too much. Let me watch that again. Yeah. Yeah, I think. Wait. Yeah. Yeah, I think he's beat tapping during these waves. Not there. He knows when to stop beat tapping for sure. But oh no. No, actually I know a way around this. It's not orthodox by any means, and it goes against what we just talked about, like you want to keep your line, but then again, you just gotta learn how to adapt, dude. You gotta learn how to make shit happen in the place at the spot, because a lot of things happen in this game that you will not be able to predict. So if I were to encounter this situation, what I would do, wait, okay, so let me explain this a bit further right here. Okay, so we're going down, up, down, up, down, up. That means I'm gonna hit the down bop before the next wave. So what I would do in this scenario is that I would go to the left. You see this yellow buoy right here? I would go to the left ever so slightly. Like I want to barely touch this white line that's to the left of the yellow buoy, because I don't want to face this wave going forward, like from the front, if I'm reaching it on a down bop, because this wave is not coming towards us, it's coming on a diagonal angle, so we're not really going to, it's not like we're pushing through the wave, we're actually trying to ride through the wave, like on top of the wave, because there's no way for us to push forward with a wave that's not actually coming towards us. So what I would do is that, let me put this in insane smoke, yes, I would go to the left. So right here, as he's hitting this, I would be like maybe a quarter of a unit to the left. That way the wave is not only lower in height, because I'm kind of compensating for my down bob, I'm reaching it on a middle bob, but it's like a smaller portion of the wave as well. This is a huge chunk of this wave, the one that's right to the right side of it. So you want to avoid that at all costs, but at the same time you want to screw up your line. So even just making it past this white line that you see in front of Mariner, like on top of his head, that kind of like separates, you know, if you can take a look at this, you can see that there's like a back tail of the wave at the left, then there's a line, and there's another part of the wave, a line, another part of the wave, and then we see the line and the part of the wave he's hitting. I would have taken the wave on the left, you know, so it would be the third wave from left to right. That's the one I would have looked out for, because it's just easier to push through it, you know. But that's barely it. Like I said, we're just going over the things and we're trying to explain what can you do in these scenarios. You can always restart, of course, but that's not ideal. Fairly good turn. So going to lap 3 again, stable KMH. He even reached 129 a couple times, which is really good. Right there, he just beat tap a bit too much. That was nice. Okay. There's one thing I want to know here, and it's with this wave right here. For some reason, don't ask me why, because I don't understand why, but it works. For some reason, if you push forward on this wave and then you push, like, you, instead of like tapping down to go down faster, to get down from the wave faster, you can tap lower left instead of down. Why it works, I don't know, but it works better than down, specifically on this wave. I don't know why, but it does. And it's not only better for the wave, it's actually better for the turn, because you already buffered that direction. So that means that on the next bop you're already tilted to the left. So that means that you can start this turn not only early, but you can start it with a way more gradual approach. It's just a tiny little tip, but if you wanna get better at this turn, you need to work on your approach to it, and this is very, very useful for approaching this turn on the cycle lap. So yeah, just keep this in mind. If you want to course through this wave efficiently, just push forward, and as you want to push back on the stick, tap down so you go down faster. Instead of tapping down, you're tapping lower left, and that's it. You get down faster, you're already tilted to the left, and turn just feels more natural to do. Okay, third lap, he drops to 120. That's big. That's big for this pace. Okay, so yeah, he kind of got an unlucky bop cycle. Okay, so this is one of the things where I always say the same thing. Straights is insanely important. They are insanely important in this course, because he dropped to 120. This wave cycle is way far from ideal. So now he's gonna lose way too much speed on this wave alone, because he has, I'm gonna say, an awful bop cycle, but he has a very undesirable bop cycle for the straight. And this is gonna keep on. Like, this is gonna be a trend throughout this straight. Like, he can't, yeah, he makes it up. Of course he makes it up. But just take a look at the time. He's building 129 kmh from 113. Imagine how much time he would have saved if he would be able to keep 120 here. Then again, it's not about the 20. It's not about the difference between 13 and 20. It's the difference between 13 and 29. That's the difference that actually makes a big change. It means that a lot in this course, you know. Like, sure, Sunny Beach can be the easiest course in the game by far, but the time, it's not. 103, it's difficult because it's a very fast time. There's a lot of tiny mistakes that can cost you 103, you know. But then again, there's a lot of tiny little things you can do to keep it up, to gain back that time. So this is just to explain why this wave feels so awkward. It's strictly because he dropped 127. That's the difference. So yeah, work on the straights. They're insanely important for this course. Course 129. He drops again to 115, and then he kind of goes through. Yeah, pretty nice run, pretty safe run. Like a clear indicator that you're on, like, I think it would be 0.6 or less, like a 103.6 or less, is that you beat this wave. If you beat this wave on the third lap, you got it, dog. You just got the W. Like, you fucking did it. But that's not easy. That's easier said than done. Then again, with single little splits, we get 22.6, which is good. It's the ideal split you want for a 103. 20.6, which is not very good, but decent enough to keep a 103, and a 20.5. He would have still gotten this if he were to get a 20.6. Like, he wouldn't gotten a PB, but he would still gotten a 103. So that's kind of the sentiment, you know. If you can get all 0.6 splits, you can get a 103. It's not guaranteed, but you can get a 103. So just recap real quick, and just in case I'm missing something. I'm not sure if I'm missing something. I think I didn't, but I just want to make sure. Hopefully Twitch actually speeds up things faster. Okay, 15, 26, 15. He kind of, oh, he bounced on the wave. That's actually unfortunate. I don't know why he bounced on the first lap wave. He definitely shouldn't. He knows how to get around that. Maybe it was just a mistake. Alright. Alright. Yeah, decent enough. Okay. So it was pancakes. 1, 3. Pretty nice time, dude. But you gotta take it down, man. I mean, come on. It's been like 2 years since you got this time. I'm not even sure if that's true, man. I'm just shit talking. You got it. You got it last year. What the hell am I saying? Okay. Okay. So last Sunday Beach clip. Yeah. So this is Gilligite? No, this is Bo. Okay, right. I was confused because this is uploaded to Gilligite's channel. I don't know why you guys did this, by the way. I don't understand why some of Mo's runs are on Gilligite's channel. I don't get it. Whatever. It doesn't make a difference. So this is Mo's 103.4. So I just checked everything is normal. Yeah, everything's normal. Okay, let's just go ahead and watch this because I love this run. This is a run I chose for a very specific reason. The beautiful thing about this run, why is this running so slow? Playback speed is normal, dude. Why is this running so slow? Wait. I don't know why, but my computer was lagging for a bit. I don't know why. Okay. So, what I love about this course, what I love about this run, is how unoptimal this course is, this Sunny Beach is, while still getting such a sick time, dude. Like, that just goes on to show how good you can get at Sunny Beach. Alright. So there's a couple of things to know in the first lap, but honestly, it was sick as hell, dude. Like, it was just insanely clean. This one. Okay, so that one, let's just take a look back. This is something I could clarify on other runs too. I don't want to be repeating myself too much. No, I feel like I did. Yeah, it kind of happened the same thing there. It caught a little bit of sand. Yeah, this is what I mean. You know, this is what I was telling you with the tapping lower left. That's kind of somewhere along the lines of what he did, because if you tell, like, if you take a moment to notice, as he's bouncing off this wave, shit, sorry, messed up. As he's bouncing off this wave, he's already bouncing. What the hell happened? Sorry about that. Okay, so he's already bouncing to the left. Like, he's already, Martiner's already positioning himself, like leaning himself towards the left as he's bouncing, not as he hit the water, but as he bounced, as he went up. So right here, press lower left, and that means that he's already in line for this down bop in order for him to make the turn. That's why that lower left, it's so OP, dude. Like, it's so overpowered on that wave alone. I think that was okay. I'm pretty sure that was a forward angle, just because of the way the jet ski maneuvered. Yeah, I think that was a forward angle. It's not ideal. You should always try to look for lower angles in this section, but there's just so many ways to go about this. Like, a lot of people can tell you to use, like, shit. A lot of people can tell you to use lower angles, like the ones that Shibi does. Some players like to use it with forward angles. I know that Fish does something in the middle, like where he presses neutral left and then he rotates down. I found so many ways to get around this. Like, I can go forward and then rotate entirely to the left down. That's just, there's a lot of ways to go through this, but when you're on a third lap, you don't want to use a forward angle. That's a bit too risky, because even though it's kind of hard to notice, he got so close to getting killed in this run just because of this angle. That is, I don't know, it's kind of insane that he pulled it off, because I can very easily backfire on you. Again, very nice turn. This turn, dude, this turn is so clean. It's so fucking clean. I love this turn. I've spent probably an hour watching this turn alone, dude, because it's so good. And the reason why I want to highlight this turn is because there's something very crucial to turning fundamentals that Mo is applying here. So as he approaches the turn, it's a very slight moment where he's bouncing up, so he's aligning himself towards the turn, but because he's not only not B-tapping, but because he's holding a direction so gently that the game doesn't register a turn just yet, he's able to carry the down bop momentum to propel himself forward into that bop, into the next bop, which gets him closer to the down bop he needs to actually make the turn. And this all happens in the sliver of a second, dude. And the reason why this is so hard to spot is because even though the game doesn't render it, you know, like you're bobbing up and down, up and down, up and down, and as you turn, you feel like you're not bobbing. You know, it doesn't really feel that way. You're kind of going straight, depending on some of the angles that you choose for the turn. But let me assure you, you are bobbing. That's happening, baby. That's never gonna stop. So even if the game doesn't show you a bob, that doesn't mean it's not happening. That shit's happening. So right here, he aligns himself for the turn. He may have used the same lower angle as before, lower left maybe. So now you can see here that as he's getting into this down bob, like as he hit this down bob, the jet ski's sliding. He's actually sliding, but he's sliding beforehand, just a little tiny bit beforehand. And the reason is because he's holding the stick a bit gentle. So instead of pushing it towards a direction like this, I'll just barely touch it, barely move it out of central position, and that's enough. That's more than enough for the game to register this input. This game is the same sensitive. So because he did that, he now reaches. Wait for this down bob. This is a down bob, by the way. It doesn't look like a down bob because he never went up. He's not technically going down, but he is down bob. Don't get me wrong. That's a down bob. So because he's hitting that down bob at this point, and if you can tell, the water ahead of him is kind of like a little bit low. That means that as he's making it past the turn, this water is gonna rise because it's just a cycle. You know, it just goes up and down. So because he's on a lower spot right here, that means that it's gonna be higher once he reaches the spot. But if he's too slow during the turn, he's gonna hit sand because the water is just gonna go down again, you know. But because he's so fucking good, he was able to catch these waves as they were going up again, you know, therefore skipping this wave, which easily lands him with a 103.6 0.4. Yeah, like I was saying before, you can get even a 0.6 with this. Yeah, 0.4. It's an insane run. Just look at those splits, man. That's a 22.4, 64, happy number. 20.6, 66. We're getting a bit satanic, dude. Then we got a 20.3. This lap is insane. 20.3 is just insane. Like if you can get a 20.3 on Sandy Beach, dude, you're fire. Like you're very good at Sandy Beach. 22.4, that's a 6-star to be honest, but this could have been better. Like just watching this first lap alone, I can tell. Like maybe a less experienced viewer won't be able to tell, but I can definitely tell that this first lap could have been way better, way better. And I say way better, don't get me wrong. What I mean by way better is like 100 milliseconds faster. It doesn't seem like a lot, but it is, especially when it comes to cycles like these, you know. It's very useful. So what's the main takeaway? What are the things that we need to look out for when we're running Sunny Beach? First off, you want to keep your straights clean. Just work on that. Try to keep them as clean as possible. Then you want to hold back before the waves, and then you want to push forward as the down bob before the wave is propelling you forward into the wave. You want to B-tap a couple times before hitting the water just so you go down faster, and you can also tap down on the stick so that you reach the main floor of the water faster. I think this is something that I should explain because this happens quite a lot to a lot of people. If you're feeling like you're struggling with this turn, there's a couple of things you can do. First off, don't aim towards the turn. Don't do that because you're gonna die. That doesn't mean that you have to die. It means that you're most likely to die if you're pointing against the turn, if you're like aiming for the turn. Instead, most of us, what we do is that we aim for this sign right here. We kind of want to like aim in the middle point between the sign and the sand. So if you see the clip, like the point of the sand under the water to the left here, and you see the sign to the right, you see this like central gap, and you can tell he's still aiming for that position even though he's turning. What I mean is that you want to make it so as you're using this down bob to turn, you're still facing this direction. If you're facing a bit more to the left while you're still holding this position, like if you're ahead, that's cool if you're looking a bit more to the left, but if you're this far back, you're most likely gonna hit sand. That's just gonna happen because you're way too close to the turn. So yeah, I think that's just something very common that happens to a lot of people. So it's just good to be able to tell why you're getting sand. It's not just that you're messing up the turn, it's actually has way more to do with your approach to it rather than the turn itself. Okay, this is something that's kind of weird, but I feel like it's necessary to explain. Leaving this cycle, entering this next lap, and keeping 127 kmh is not easy. It's not easy. Like ideally, you don't want to drop at all. You don't want to drop until you start turning at the end. So that means that before this finish line, you shouldn't be dropping kmh, and as you pass the finish line, you shouldn't be dropping kmh. That's hard, dude. That's like really hard. That's so easy to drop kmh before this finish line. It's insane. And it's kind of random because it depends on the waves that you hit, and that depends on the pace you're carrying into the run. So don't get too frustrated by this. You know, if you're dropping kmh before the finish line, that's okay. That happens to everyone. You can still make that up, but it's important that you make that up. It's important that you understand this is hindering your play, and once this happens, you need to like pay attention and try to gain that momentum back, because it's not a tiny mistake. Like it looks like a tiny mistake because it's a very easy thing to mess up, but like we just saw, a lot of these things just add up, you know, and they eventually do make the run harder than it actually is, or at least than it should be. So hit 120. What can you do in this straight? This is a very tough question. Like it definitely requires a lot of practice to get used to this straight, to the B taps I mean, but you know, positioning, you work on it as you find your angles in your play style and you find a comfortable way for you to get the first turn. You'll start experimenting with your approach to the turn. So don't worry too much about that because you'll work on it. You'll get there. Don't worry, just practice it and you'll get there. But keeping the kmh throughout the straight is actually harder than it seems. The reason why is because there's two rhythms. For two? Wait. No. Yeah. Kind of. There's kind of two rhythms. So you can do 2 B taps or 3 B taps. That's one rhythm. That will land you with a 27. That's always going to land you with a 127. There's no way. I have tested this non-stop and I still haven't encountered a single situation where this happens. If you can manage to get a 129 without B tapping 4 times per bob, dude, you're godlike, and I want to see that shit because I don't understand how that works. But in my experience, based on my experience, you cannot get 129 without 4 B taps per bob. Now I think you hear me say 4 B taps. Do you crazy? Like, that's so many B taps. Yeah, that's kind of the point. This is a very tense straight, but you don't want to start B tapping 4 times per bob throughout this entire straight, because you're gonna kill your momentum. So what you want to do is that as we reach the finish line, this is what I do. Right, for example, I'm B tapping. That's kind of the thing. Like, as I'm going into the lap, like right here, I'm just tapping regularly. Now, something like that. I'm not tapping as I've approached the wave. In like, I would argue you should stop B tapping as you're hitting this red buoy. Now, this is the place where you need to stop B tapping. But that's kind of the sentiment. Like, the first 2 bobs, you want to get them with 2 taps, 3 taps, doesn't really make a difference. But once you hit 124 kmh, you want to stop tapping 4 times per bob, because that's just the only way you're gonna get 129. So if you want to go really fast during the straights, that's the time you gotta learn, you know. And there's actually, I'm hoping that Fish has an input viewer for his Sunny Beach run. I think he does. I'm pretty sure that he does. Sorry about that. Oh no, he doesn't. Damn, that's unfortunate, dude, because I've seen his B tap rhythm before, and it's so on point for what you need. But I think maybe Shibi has one. I'm not sure. Nah, he doesn't have it either. Come on. Well, that's kind of the point. You need 3 B taps. You can go around with 2 to 3 B taps per wave, but once you hit 124 kmh, you want to start with 4 B taps per wave. Keep in mind, all we're talking is just 103. That's just 103. I'm not talking about a 104 or 105. If we want to get a 105, you should definitely work. Like, there's 2 ways about it. You can make it so you don't crash into a turn. When I mean crash, I don't mean like actually crashing the jet ski. I just mean like dropping a lot of kmh through a turn. You want to make sure you don't crash in a turn, or you want to make sure that your straights are as clean as you can get them to be. As long as you're trying those 2 things, they'll eventually work. One of them will eventually work, and you just take down your time. Now, if you feel like you're really struggling, one thing that a lot of people don't realize is that every single adjustment you make actually causes speed in this game. So even if you have a bad angle, sometimes it's better to just leave the stick alone and just take a leap of faith. You know, just trust in your ability, trust in your knowledge, just have faith that you actually made the right call. And if you didn't, that's okay. That's cool. You just restart and do it again. But it's way more important that you leave Mariner B and go straight on his own than trying to shakily adjust him. You know, it's way worse to trying to adjust him. And that's kind of the reason why we always encourage players to play on OEME controllers. The OEM controller, sorry, because it's just impossible to be this precise without an N64 stick. That's just not happening. So yeah, I think they should do it for Sunny Beach. But if you guys have any questions, if there's a situation I didn't cover, if there's anything I can help you with at all, my door is always open. I'm always available on Discord. And maybe just as a side note, I think we could watch Shiripod's Sunny Beach, because I think it's a good case of reference, you know, because Shiripod taught us a lot in the tutorial, but he didn't explain his magic, you know. So let's try to narrow down why this run is so good, you know, where Shiripod does right, where so many people mess up, including myself. So dramatic. Centurion, so dramatic. Whatever. Okay. So with a 1 buoy miss. Only with over 1 buoy miss. I don't know why that's on the bottom of the screen. I apologize. Okay. Yeah, this is. You can already tell he's going insanely fast because he's making the 11th second mark. I'm pretty sure past the red buoy. I'm not. Let me check on that. No, he's barely before the red buoy, but this is really fast. This is really fast. Yeah. So that second lap could have been better. Sorry, the first lap. That starting lap could have been better, and it mainly comes down to the last turn. And that's just honest as hell. Like, this entire section was so clean, dude. It's insane. But this turn completely nullified the first lap, in my opinion. Because the thing about this turn is that he got kind of an unlucky pop cycle. So if he would have leaned beforehand, he would have run the risk of being too close to the sand. So in order to stay up clear of it, he just went straight. You know, he skipped a couple of V-taps so he wouldn't bounce on the water, and then he just immediately does the turn as soon as he can. But the thing is that because he's going straight, he's going fully straight, and then he's sharply turning, the same principle applies to one of the first things we saw in this video, where like you're creating a lot of friction in the water. Like the water is trying to fight against the way you're manipulating your weight. You know, so this not only eats a big chunk of his speed, this is also making it so he gets like the most obvious thing. He gets to this wave slower, so he actually touches it. But if this lap would have been as clean as a regular Shibby Pond lap, he would have totally skipped that wave. Like we just saw Mo doing it, you know, and Shibby Pond's insane consistent on this course. This one, there's a reason why you always see Shibby Pod doing this, and this turns the reason why I learned how OP lower angles really are in this game. So he inputs a lower angle, right? He inputs lower left. I've seen him run this course many times. I know what he's doing. He's using lower left to this direction right here. So he like pushes it, and then he lets go of the stick, so he comes back to neutral position, and as he's going near the sand, he's ever so slightly tilt tapping the same direction. It has to be the same direction, because otherwise the jet ski is just gonna be like confused. Like Mario's just gonna get confused. He's a very dumb boy, to be honest, and he's just gonna mess up the turn because Mario likes to do that. So in order to make sure that doesn't happen, Shibby not only buffers the direction he's going to use, and he does it perfectly at the perfect time, but because of the direction he's using, and this goes a bit more deep into it, but because of the direction he's using plus the sensitivity settings that he has, that makes it so holding or tapping the same direction with the KMH that he has right now will get him something that it's even hard to consider as a turn, because he's not really turning, but rather just repositioning his momentum. That's basically, I know it sounds like the same thing, but what I mean is that if you take a look at this, there's barely any friction in the water. He's going so fast that it's so easy to mess this up and to get like a lot of splashing, as you just did that first movement. But then he enters the turn, and because he's using a lower angle, because he's using the same direction, a lower angle, and his sensitivity settings, the lower angles are not just carrying him through the turn, they're also pushing him away from the sand. Now the reason why this happens is because he's being very gentle with his sticks usage. If he were to be a bit more harsh with his choice of movement of stick usage, he would have hit the sand. Like, no doubt he would have hit the sand 100% of the times. So Yeah. If you feel like you're hitting a lot of sand, be gentle with your stick, man. He didn't do anything to you. He doesn't deserve this shit. Just treat it nicely. Treat it like you would your sister, or your girlfriend if you hate your sister. If you feel like you're dropping way too much KMH by the time you reach this turn, like as you're turning to try to reach this turn, it's probably because you're A, B tapping, B, you have a bad angle. You just chose a bad angle, so it's better for you to restart and try a different angle and see how it works, because it's all dependent on the conditions on your stick as well, you know. So this can vary a lot from people to people, from person to person. Or the third option, which is the most likely option, is that you got mixed up with your decision making. And what I mean by that is that sometimes as we're making a turn and we see the turn happening, we see that's not as ideal as we want it to be. So we kind of like get scared, you know, and want to make it right. But that's actually what's hurting you. That making it right part, that's what hurting you the turn. Most often not, if you stick to your guns, if you stick to the decision that you made and you try to carry it out, it works. Most often not, it works. But if you doubt, if you hesitate on your choices, this game doesn't like that, dude. So yeah, practice your straights, practice your waves, believe in yourself, trust in your inputs. They're insanely important for you to trust whatever it is you're doing, whatever dumb option you think you chose, it can work. You just have to make it work. And finally, really, really, really work on your B taps, because they're insanely important to this game. And I don't mean just on the straights. I mean all over the place. Like during the straights, yeah, that's a rhythm, cool. But you want to be able to keep that rhythm through this section as well. You want to know when to stop B tapping as you're approaching the turn. Now that I can make a whole video just on that itself, but I think that's something that's better for the player to learn on themselves. Like you just need to go into Sunny Beach, try a whole bunch of different angles, try a whole bunch of different beat tapping rhythms, and eventually you'll get used to it. You'll find your route through it. You'll find your way to course to the Sunny Beach. And once you have your play style defined, or at least you have like a solid idea of how you like to run the course, then you can start like asking for tips if you feel like you hit a roadblock. Like, you know, like if you don't feel like you're hitting that roadblock, that mental block, by all means keep going, just keep going and you'll improve. But if you feel like you're mentally blocked, then yeah, sure, just go ahead and ask. That's cool. So yeah, I know this isn't ideal. This is not the final format, by the way. This is just what we're stuck in for the time being till I get my edited shit together and I can actually make proper content for this game. But as it stands, this is going to be my Sunny Beach troubleshoot. So yeah, I hope you guys learned something from it, and if I can help you with anything else, just let me know on Discord.